Can I go over which ones?
1.2 says
Yeah. Number 21. Let's do number 21. Okay, so we've got a situation. Himbaris wants me to do number 21. Here it is. The allele for red. Just curiosity, Himbaris, what was your answer? Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's do it. I like it. The allele for red flowers is incompletely dominant over the allele for yellow flowers. When a red flower is crossed with a yellow flower, an intermediate orange flower results. Which of the following crosses from least greatest probability? Oh, my answer is wrong because I read the question wrong. Whoops. From least greatest probability to most greatest probability, which of these three crosses will produce the greatest amount of orange flowers? So basically what you need to do is you need to make Punnett squares for all three of those potential crosses. So let's do them. We're going to have FRFY. This is cross number 1. FRFY. You're going to get RRRY, RY, and YY. So which ones here are orange? Those two. That's cross number 1. Cross number 2 is going to be, yeah, all orange. FRFY, FRFY. There's my cross, RY, 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 RY. All of them are good. And then the third cross is going to be, we don't even have to do it. Yes, Josiah, you're right. FY is going to be all yellow. So the least probabilistic chance of creating orange is going to be what? No, the least. Least is the smallest chance of producing an orange. 3. So your answer has to be D, because it's the only one where 3 is the least and 2 is the most. Because it is going to go 3, 1, 2. From least to greatest. 0%, 50%, 100% chance of orange. Which means my answer to that question was wrong. It should be that guy. Because I had it exactly backwards. It's important to read the question, kids. Yes, Luca.
Number 13.
On the same doc?
Yeah, the 1.2.
Okay. Question number 13. Here we go. A heterozygous yellow plant is crossed with a homozygous green plant. If yellow is the dominant gene, what are the possible genotypes of the offspring? So again, just make a Punnett square. If it's heterozygous yellow, that's going to be big Y, little I. And a homozygous green, if yellow is dominant, means it's going to be lowercase y, lowercase y. So what are the possible genotypes? This one's going to be big Y, little y. This one's going to be big Y, little y. This one's going to be little, little. And this one's going to be little, little. So if you look at all these letters, the only possible genotypes are those two. So which answer gives you those two genotypes? Josiah? You are correct, sir. Luke, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. There are, and just like on your quiz tomorrow, there's going to be a bunch of questions similar nature. I mean, it's all genetics. Your guys are going to be doing, even if it doesn't say specifically using a Punnett square, do this. The Punnett square is the tool. Like in math at this stage, you guys have taken a math 10 class. The questions don't say by adding 1 and 2 together, what's 1 and 2? Like they'll just say, like they'll give you the math question and they won't always specify using this particular tool. Punnett squares are the only tool we have in this section here. Regardless of whether or not I tell you specifically to use them, I would strongly encourage that you are able to do them. Another disadvantage to this whole process is the fact that there's a lot of reading on the quiz that you're going to do for me tomorrow. It's biology. There's a ton of reading with specifically, if you get bogged down, if you get stuck in the paragraph that is the question, most of them are paragraphs. Because just like these, this one starts with a heterozygous yellow plant is crossed with a homozygous green plant. if the yellow gene is dominant. I might word it a different way. I might say something like, in pea plants, yellow is the dominant gene to green. If you take two people, like it might be like a layered couple sentences, one explaining the scenario. Are we talking about roan cows? Are we talking about wrinkly seeds? Are we talking about colors of flowers? Are we talking, like, so there's always going to be a sentence that describes to you the scenario, and there will be a sentence describing a cross, and then there will be a like how are you breeding these things together, and then there's going to be a sentence asking you for what I want you to find based on the cross I gave you in 2 with the scenario I gave you in the first sentence. Like all those pieces will be there. There are 19 questions. Not all of them are like that. There's like 8 matching questions to start. There won't be, some of them will be like, explain these words. What does this mean? But as far as like the full-on genetics questions, I think there's 5 or 6. Anything from this section is fair game. Heterozygous, homozygous, dominance, recessive, homozygous, dominant, homozygous, recessive, phenotypes, genotypes, phenotypic ratios, probability, this is a pretty good list to start. But everything in, like, all of just the language that we've been using to describe what's been going on here, and I've been trying to use all that language to get you guys comfortable with it, is stuff that I'm looking for. But I will, unless the question is, define this word for me, I'm happy to walk around and give some clarification. If you're getting stuck in the sentence, because that's what people complain about in math all the time. In math, everyone's least favorite thing in math, other than fractions, is word problems. If you get bogged down in the language of the problem, I will happily help you out. Throw your hand in the air and say, what is it actually asking for? And I am happy to come and help you break it down. I'm not going to give you the answer. I'm not even going to tell you necessarily how to approach it, but I will absolutely help you disentangle the question so you know what you're looking for. I'm happy to do that. So as you got like these, and this is a good example, like the 21, Josiah, that you just clearly had no problem doing, that Himparis just asked about, is a great example of the way these things are worded. The allele for red flowers is incompletely dominant over the allele for yellow flowers. There's a lot of information baked into that one sentence. You've got red, you've got yellow, it's incompletely dominant, so when they blend, it's going to give you orange. Like all of this is wrapped in that first sentence. It also tells you in the second sentence that when a red flower, here's the code, is crossed with a yellow flower, here's the code, form an intermediate yellow flower. What are the crosses? So you're mating things here now from least probability to greatest probability. So now I'm asking you for ratios. And so this is a really good example of the kind of thing I could ask you tomorrow on your quiz. Not necessarily this way, but possibly. There's been lots of examples that we've looked at. We've looked at colors in cows. We've looked at colors in flowers. We've looked at positions of leaves on stems. Are they at the end or are they on the stem? We've looked at blood typing. We've looked at muscular dystrophy. We talked about hemophilia. We've talked about sickle cell. Like, there's so many examples of traits. Wrinkly seeds versus round, or wrinkly peas versus round peas. What else? Fur color. Have we done eye color? Yeah, in the Harry Potter section, we talked a little bit about eye color, yeah. All of the examples that I will be giving you, except for one, all of the questions that I will give you tomorrow, except for one, deals with traits we've talked about in class. There is one new trait. I don't think I got rid of that question. There's one new trait that is like all these that we did not talk about that I will give you, but the other 4 or 5 all come from stuff that we've talked about, whether it's cows or rabbits or flowers or whatever. Yes, Soham.
Answer number 10.
That's what I got. Because phenotypes are, what are phenotypes, Soham? What you see. You see the length of the hair on the dog, you see the physical appearance of the plant, you do not see, plants are not labeled with the letters that make up their genes. So 10 would in fact be C. Is there anything else anyone would like to talk about regarding what's coming at you tomorrow? Or any of the prep you've perhaps done up to this point? Okay, you will have time to work today on whether it's coloring your monster or reviewing for this test. But before we do that, there is one page of new concept that I would like to go over with you guys today. And that is what happens when all this stuff we're looking at goes wrong. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. Mutations and natural selection. We're just going to adjust this first page today. And then your guys are going to do a quiz 3 tomorrow. And then next week, we will finish natural and artificial selection. And then we'll be done biology. Yes, finally. It hasn't been that long. I don't believe that. Okay, here we go. So, mutations. When I say this word mutations, what do you guys think of? The Ninja Turtles. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They were little turtles in the lab, and they got covered in a chemical, and they became teenagers, and moody, and mutant, and now they know ninjutsu, and... The Powerpuff Girls! Yes, the Powerpuff Girls! Professor wanted to make the perfect girl, so he took some sugar, some spice, and everything nice, and then Chemical X. I've seen the Powerpuff Girls. Got spilled in there, and he made these 3 girls. What are they? Buttercup, Blossom, and Bubbles is the other one. And one of them is happy and pleasant all the time, and one of them is kind of this intermediate one, and the green one's always angry.
No.
Yeah? Yeah. The blue one is sickly sweet, the red one is like the middle of the road, and the green one is like Donatello. Nope, is like Raphael, the angry one. You always need the angry one. I know nothing about Danny Phantom. I know the existence of Danny Phantom, but I do not know Danny Phantom. And so many of the superheroes, all this Marvel stuff that we've been watching, has been, due to mutations. Spider-Man, he got bitten by a radioactive spider. Captain America got doused with chemicals. The Hulk, how did the Hulk become the Hulk? Does anybody know? Sorry? It was not a laser. The Hulk was not made by a laser. Radiation, specifically what kind? It's a huge plot point. Gamma rays. Gamma rays made the Hulk. So all of these things, and then Bruce Banner mutated into this green, super strong, angry dude. I'm always angry. And so you get all of these. Mutations is something that we talk about all the time. Unfortunately, none of the mutations that happen in our population are cool like that. They're things like, oh, you got a bonus toe. Congratulations, that sucks. Or, oh, look, your fingers are stuck together because the skin grew between them. And that's awful. Like, the mutations that we have aren't, generally speaking, that we see on the day-to-day, generally aren't, strictly speaking, all that positive. But let's talk about them. Yes, Himparis. No, because the fingers aren't webbed the way you would expect them to be webbed. It's not like, haha, I'm a duck. It's like, oh, I have 3 fingers. So it's different. Like, so, and Himparis, when we say webbed, like, this is what a hand might look like, or this is what the hand might look like. But if you took an X-ray, you'd actually have the bone structure for 2 separate fingers in there. So it's not just I'm missing a finger, it's I have 2 fingers that have grown together. Yeah, you could theoretically have them separated. It's not like, oh, now I'm a duck, which would be kind of cool. I'm not sure I would want that separated because it would make you a better swimmer. Yeah, absolutely it would, 100%. If Michael Phelps had webbed hands, he would be even better than he already was. But that's not how this works. So, the other thing with all of this is that mutations are a permanent, you betcha, change in the genetic material of an organism. Once the change is there, the change is there. And so, actually, I'll come back to that in a second, that thought. Mutations can be a source of genetic variation because it is possible that a condition that neither one of your parents had or was even a carrier for can or not even theoretically, can show up in their offspring. It is possible that this occurs. And then once it's there in that offspring is now capable of passing it on. But it wasn't in either parent, and neither parent was even a carrier for it, so where did it come from? It came from a mutation of some form in their genetic code. Now this is a trait that they have. It is brand new to their line, and now their offspring can have it passed on to them as well. Sorry? Nope. Okay. Ooh, and so this is an interesting conversation then to have. If Spider-Man wasn't Spider-Man, but Spider-Gwen, if Spider-Gwen, the girl, Gwen Stacy, if she had been bit and it changed all of her cells, but didn't change the cells necessary for her to make more people, her gametes, her eggs, if the powers only develop in the things that are undergoing DNA replication, then Spider-Gwen could not have spider kids because the eggs that she had when she was developing as an embryo, that were then developed in her, that are just sitting and waiting ready for her to have kids, would not then also have the spider mutations because they were created before she got bit. But Peter Parker, and we've talked about this already ad nauseum, males of a species are undergoing meiosis constantly. Females that use meiosis, it's done before you're born. But males are undergoing meiosis constantly. So Peter Parker, if the spider bite was a change of everything that is currently being copied, you betcha, Spider-Man could, if he's not infertile from his changes, could absolutely have spider children, which would be wild. Can you imagine spider children? I have not seen the second one. Has a kid with spider powers? Yeah, there you go. What if you what? What? I don't know. Malik. Not to my knowledge, no. Unless there was a mutation at birth, like pre-birth, like while the embryo was forming, you wouldn't change the hair color, it would just be a color. Like it is possible for two black people, black-skinned, and all of the traits that go along with being African, can have a white child without, and then all of those other melanin-related traits aren't there, but now that child is genetically white. Like it's just that child now can't go off and have a black child because they have that answers your question. Because there was a mutation in there somewhere. The traits for albinoism were in there, unless they then went and had children with someone else who was normal black, not albino black. Then they could theoretically have a lighter skinned child. I don't know of an example where that's ever happened. But once the mutation, and so guys, these are all good questions that are being asked. Some of them are ridiculous scenarios, like what about Spider-Man? But these are good questions. Once the mutation is there, it's now part of whatever comes after. Yes. I have no idea. I mean, melanin, well, albino is anyone who there's a mutation that happens in there that Albinism is like a total lack of melanin. So the hair is white, the eye is red. Often in the animal kingdom, most albino animals have red eyes because the other melanin producing to make it brown or to make it green or whatever isn't there. It's just red. Yes, red dead too. Yes, you can, and generally speaking, those are almost all bad. So let's talk about Mahimpars. Is that a hand behind Vikram? Okay, 1 sec. 1 sec. Whisper. In asexual reproduction? Absolutely. Yes. Yes. So let's talk about how these problems can occur. They can occur in DNA replication. So often, if it's going to happen, it'll happen in the embryo, while like sperm meets egg, and then that egg needs to start undergoing mitosis. Before it starts to differentiate into all of the other cells, you get the growing of that embryo through mitosis. This can happen in there. There are 3 ways that DNA gets changed during replication. I'm going to go over here. There are technical terms for this. I'm not going to use the proper terms. Hey, shh. I will not use the proper terms for this, but I will tell you what they are. So if you recall, your DNA, the thing that makes you, all comes down to the order in which your nitrogenous bases are given to you. Can't you wake up? Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Olive. The order of the nitrogenous bases. So one way for that to change, if there is a change in the order. Like it should have gone AT, but then it goes TA. Or it should have been AA, but then it goes AT. Like there's a change in the bases. There's no bonus bases added, it's just a change. What should have been one is now the other. And now that copying mistake, because we talked about it, your DNA copies with an error rate of about 1 in a billion, which is pretty good. Some of those mistakes just lead to the death of the cell, and that is actually the best case scenario. The best case scenario is, oh, there was a mistake in the DNA can't replicate, now it's dead. And that's fine. Your body's loaded with cells. If 1 or 2 of them die every time there's a mistake, not the end of the world. No, something else would move to replace it. Another cell would replicate to replace. What happens if what? That is progressively worst case scenarios. That is exactly what we're going to go over right here. Let's talk about what that is. Okay, so you can change the order of the bases. You can remove sections, or you can add sections. Those are the 3 ways that you can screw with the genetic code. Change the order, remove sections of your DNA, or now you have bonus sections of DNA. Best case scenario, the cells die. Let's talk about what happens when they don't. So, these mutations can occur during DNA replication or from external factors like blank from the blank and exposure to certain blank. Chemicals. Chemicals is the last of those 3 blanks. Exposure to certain chemicals can cause cells to mutate. In a perfect world, those cells just die. If the cells do not die, well, let's go back a step. What kinds of chemicals are we talking about here? In comic books, it's like the super soldier serum that Captain America got. And if that changed his genetic material, now super soldier Captain America can have little super soldier babies, which would be terrifying for the non-super soldier woman who has to deliver these super soldier babies. But that's a whole nother story for a comic that was probably never written. Actually, you know what? It probably was written. But when we talk about normal chemicals every day causing mutations in cells, what kinds of chemicals are we talking about? Can you be more specific? What did you just say before you said I don't know? Radiation is actually this first blank over here. Radiation is not a chemical. Radiation from the sun. Okay, you filled in all the blanks. Let's talk about all these blanks. Okay, the sun produces light. I know that's a mind-blowing, earth-shocking, earth-shattering revelation to you. I'm going to go walking over here for a second. I have a poster on this wall. No, not the Empire Needs You. This there's nothing to learn about this poster. It's not the Mario one either. That's not actually Mario. This is Smash Brothers. Because it's more than just Mario. And it's the OG lineup. None of this Smash Brothers Brawl or no Sonic. It's the original Smash 64. But that's not what I'm over here to talk about. I'm over here to talk about this one. This poster, I don't know if any of you have ever looked at it. It is the electromagnetic radiation spectrum. All light is radiation. I don't remember.
Maybe I did. With the lights talking about like open and close.
Don't remember. Could have happened. Yes, Angel. No. I mean, there's radiation there that will come out, but it's. Okay, so all light is radiation. The visible light spectrum is this guy right here. It has an energy of, where is my energy? That's wavelength, that's frequency, I don't know, I'll say that's different. Oh, here we go. 2.2 electron volts. It goes all the way from about 1.7 electron volts up to about 3 electron volts. Don't ask me what an electron volt is, it's a measurement of the energy of the wave that is there in the light. Visible light is not a big deal. We're experiencing visible light now. Hold that question, your hand's going to get really tired because I want to finish this explanation before I answer it. But I will come back to you later. So, visible light, we like visible light. Visible light bounces off of you. It's how any of you can see anybody else. It's how I know Angel is holding up her hand. See her, because the light bounces off her to my eyes and then, all that goes on. But and that is radiation. We're not scared of this radiation because this radiation isn't doing anything crazy. The Hulk, Impara said earlier, nobody in this deep block class knew that the Hulk was made from gamma radiation. Gamma radiation is just another form of light. It's the highest form, the highest level of energy that we can give to light. It is energy that is found in things like nuclear blasts, lots of energy. The death of stars, lots of energy. Like when we talk about high energy, it's absurd how high this energy is, and there is nothing beyond the gamma ray section of the spectrum. I told you before that this was the visible light was like 2.2 electron volts. Gamma radiation is up here in the 15,000 electron volt range. You build a nuclear bomb and detonate it. You create a star and you let it blow up. Like just absurd amounts of energy in these processes. But it's the same material. All you've done is amp it up. It's like if I had I don't know if you guys are, if I have a 22 bullet, and I just threw it at you, is that scary? Really? Like, it might be scary that why does the beat up have bullets in class? That might be a concern to you. But if I'm just using this as an example, here look, I have my bullets, and I'm just going to throw them at Memphis, and he's laughing at me. But what if I took that exact same material, loaded it into my grandfather's 22, and pointed it at Memphis? Are you laughing now? No. Now you're concerned because that exact same part, I'm not going to shoot you. But it's the example, that exact same particle, something you were laughing at me for tossing at you, now becomes freakishly scary because all we've done is increase the amount of energy provided to it. Yes. Yes, that's what I figured the question was. Was yours also a bathroom question?
No.
Okay, then I'm going to hold off on that one. Is yours a bathroom question? No, then I'm going to hold off on that one too. I will come back to both of them. So, you take light, you amp up the energy. From gamma rays, if you dial back the energy ever so slightly, you enter what's called the X-ray spectrum. X-ray spectrum is like, okay, if I want to take a picture, I use visible light. Let's say I want to take a picture, but I want to take a picture of your insides. You take an X-ray. You go to the doctor, you say, oh, I think my arm is broken. The doctor doesn't say, okay, cool, let me cut you open and look. doctor says, cool, go stand in this machine and I'm going to take a picture of you with light that is energized enough to pass through your skin but bounce back off your bones. So that I can get a picture of your skeleton. X-ray. MRI is a different story. We're not getting into MRIs. X-ray is just, it's light, it's just higher energy. If you dial back the energy, there's different kinds of X-rays, there's hard and soft X-rays. But X-rays are kind of scary, right? Because if you go to the dentist, you get an X-ray, what's the first thing they put on you? Lead vest. If anyone ever says, here, wear this lead vest, you should be concerned. It's like, I'm like, hey, you want to go for a ride to 7-Eleven? Here, put this bulletproof vest on. If someone asks you to wear something that you're not normally asked to wear for your everyday, you should be concerned. Let's go for a ride in my car. Here's your bulletproof vest, Memphis. Like, where does the weed off live? Where are we going? Detroit? Like, what are we doing here? But it's the same thing. You're going to the dentist needs to take a picture of your teeth, your jaw, what's going on in there. Dentist says, cool, here, wear this lead vest. The second thing that should concern you, if someone says, here, I'm going to take a picture of you, the camera's going to stay, and I'm going to go 200 feet this way into a separate room. That should be concerning to you. Because, I mean, gamma radiation made the Hulk. It doesn't actually make the Hulk, it actually will kill you. But we dial back the energy a little bit, you get these X-rays. X-rays are used all the time. They take pictures of you, and when you, because you only guys get an X-ray, what, every other year?
No.
Every year? Like, if you go to the dentist, it's like every other visit. Maybe it's every second or maybe third visit. I don't know what the rate is, but it's not very often. You know, you're supposed to go to the dentist every 6 months, but you're not supposed to get X-rays every 6 months. I think it's like every other visit, once a year. If you break your arm, you're going to go get one X-ray. People aren't getting X-rays all the time. But everyone who needs an X-ray goes to the same people. If I'm the X-ray technician, and I'm constantly, so you come to me once for your X-ray. The next day, Extreme comes to me. The next day, Tension comes to me. The next day, Olive comes to me. And I'm constantly getting exposed to X-rays. Now I should be concerned. Forget that. We dial back the energy a little bit further. It's still the same stuff, just less energy. And now we are in this middle chunk, this purple chunk, the chunk that is slightly more violet than the rest of purple. What do we call the band of light that's just a little bit more violet? Ultraviolet. That's all violet is. You get to the purple end of the visible spectrum, you dial it up so that you can't see it anymore, and now you're in the ultraviolet spectrum. Ultraviolet has more energy than visible light, it has less energy than X-rays. So it's not necessarily going to hurt you like an X-ray would mess you up if you're exposed to X-rays constantly. But we expose ourselves to ultraviolet all the time. When you, and for large periods of time, the sun, and some people even make a point of being like, you know what, I don't get enough sun. I'm going to go lie in a bed that's only going to bathe me in ultraviolet light. We do this, we pay for this. Not everyone. But especially as the spring is coming and the weather's getting warmer, all the time people are like, oh yeah, look at my tan versus your tan. Oh look, I'm so basic. Oh look, I'm browner than you. Like, it's, we bathe ourselves in this light. And it's this kind of, guys, it is this kind of radiation that can cause mutations in people. Angel. Yes. So the phone radiation is, so it goes gamma, X-ray, UV, visible. We're constantly bathed in visible light and people are dropping dead from cancer. So clearly visible's fine. Below visible, we get thermal. Thermal is what you guys are constantly emitting. If I wanted to, if this room is pitch black, no windows, like literally as black as it gets, and I put on thermal vision cameras, you would see, I would see all of you, because you're constantly, it's heat. But what is heat? Heat is just emission of energy in this below normal vision spectrum. It's still just light. Below thermal, we have microwave. Microwave shows up down here. Okay, so you were asking about number. I'll give you numbers again. Remember, visible light is 2.2 electron volts. Microwaves are in the microelectron volt, like times 10 to the negative 6 electron volts. Much, 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 much lower energy. Below microwave, we have radio. Radio waves are the same kind of material. We just dial it back. And we dial it back far enough that we can transmit signals via radio. We dial it back even further. Well, there's the FM radios right there, marine communication radio, airplane radio, AM radio. And then we drop it. Now we're in brain waves. No one's ever been scared of a brain wave before. So you asked about cellular. Cellular is in the same band as the microwave spectrum is. That's why when you turn on a microwave, you can start messing with your cell reception and your Wi-Fi. Because it's all very close together in the same. Like in my house, the way my our condo is designed, where my family lives, is the Wi-Fi router is here at one exterior wall, and if I draw a straight line this way, like along the outer wall, I walk straight this way. I'm going to walk through the kitchen, the microwave, and if I walk a little bit, if I was able to pass through that wall, I'd be able to get into my closet, and then from there I'd walk through 2 more walls, and I get to the bathroom. So, yeah, I'm in the washroom. And, I don't know, gentlemen, you've never done this, I'm sure. You're like mindlessly scrolling the internet, and all of a sudden you lose internet. I know my wife's turned on the microwave to keep my kids home. Because, oh, I was watching this video, now I have no Wi-Fi for about 45 seconds, then it comes back on, because the microwave is directly between me and the router. And it pops back on. Or Bluetooth speakers, the same thing. Or Bluetooth speakers on one end, phones on the other end, microwaves in the middle. You turn it on, you use Bluetooth into the microwave. Because it's all the same kind of energy, all the same spectrum. There's another question. Boris.
So, like, what type of light is so
Visible and higher. Visible and UV.
So, like, if it goes higher,
No, that's a more complicated process that we might look at. We should look at it right now, but we'll look at it. We might look at it next chapter. Okay, Malik.
Earlier you said that if we could create a star, how would it create a star?
Fusion. Nuclear fusion. We'll talk about it next chapter. Okay, so these things can cause mutations. Visible light is not an issue, but everything above visible light can start to get problematic. Things like UV radiation, which I will just call UV rads. And then beyond that, things like X-rays. These can all cause mutations in people. What do mutations look like if UV radiation is the thing that's mutating you? Not necessarily, potentially, but not necessarily. Sorry? It starts with the color of your skin, the darkening of your skin. It can lead to cancer in the form of, skin cancer. Skin cancers are called? Melanoma. Melanoma is the word that we were looking for. But yeah, can absolutely cause cancer. Cancer is just a mutation in your DNA that goes unchecked. It causes cells to not mutate, but reproduce rapidly. That's what a tumor is. A tumor is just a cell that has been like, you know what? We're going to mutate, we've been mutated to reproduce like crazy, uncontrolled, and it takes over. And then if this triggers mutations in other cells in your body, that's now metastasized. It's causing cancer other places. That can trigger. And then depending on where in your body is undergoing this, is the different types of cancer. So if it happens in your lymph cells, it's lymphoma. If it's your skin, it's melanoma. If it's your lungs, it's lung cancer. There's names for all these different kinds of things. But yes, cancer is exactly one of these things. Anything that causes a mutation in DNA has a name. It's called a mutagen. Oh, I forgot to give you examples of chemicals. Yes, Vikram. Here, this is exactly what I was about to write down. Yes. The chemicals in cigarettes, cigarette smoke. We good? Do I need to be concerned about what that was? Okay. Okay. Cigarette smoke. There's chemicals present in cigarette smoke that, gentlemen, that can cause lung cancer. And there's chemicals in, well, it's not just cigarettes. Marijuana smoke. Vaping is currently being looked at for being actually worse for your lungs. Not like in some, guys, stop talking. In some ways, it's missing certain things that cigarettes and marijuana might have present. But by vaping, you're bringing in a whole nother set of chemicals and that haven't been regulated, that have the potential to cause lung cancer in a whole bunch of different new ways. If you don't have to, don't. It's not something you should ever just take up. There's other examples of chemicals that, Luca and Dennis, please stop talking, that do this. Asbestos. Hands up if you've ever heard of asbestos. But you've heard of it, okay? Asbestos was back in the, I want to say 60s, 70s, they were like, we have this mineral, it's called asbestos, and it is so hard to light on fire. It does not burn. It's a fibrous mineral that does not burn. Let's put it in insulation so that it helps prevent our houses from burning down so quickly and it can keep our house warm. But then we discovered that asbestos, when you disturb those fibers, and the fibers are then allowed to get up into the air and then inhaled, are really, really good at mutating lung tissue and causing lung cancer. So asbestos is a massive carcinogen. A buddy of mine lost his dad to lung cancer directly due to asbestos poisoning a couple years ago. He was in the logging industry. Asbestos was used heavily in the logging industry, for example. Silicate is another one. Silicate is the primary ingredient in concrete. It starts as a dust. If you are making a lot of concrete and you inhale a lot of that dust, same thing. Yes. Cigarette smoke, asbestos, silicate. And so now there's safety protocols in place for dealing with this. If you find out that you have asbestos, there are people who get paid large sums of money to remove this. They roll up in the hazmat suit with the gas masks on, and they will remove the asbestos for you and dispose of it properly. Silicate, same thing. If you're making concrete, you're supposed to wear a respirator. And it's on the bag, big letters. Here is the safety equipment needed when making concrete. But generally speaking, I didn't last weekend when my buddy and I made 30 bags of concrete to make a sidewalk section for his house. But that was one time. I've never poured concrete since or before, and I don't plan on pouring concrete since after it. And if I were to, I would wear a mask next time. But it's not people who have a one-time exposure to silicate that are the problem. It's people who, like I've got friends who are in the concrete industry. That is their job. All they do every day is pour concrete for foundations and walls of massive structures in Vancouver. These guys are constantly getting exposed to this. It's the constant repetitive exposure. It's like I didn't walk out into the sun this morning and get hit by a UV light, and I don't have skin cancer now because of what I was exposed to this morning. It's a constant repeated overtime exposure where enough DNA damage has been done and enough mutation has happened where, because again, in the perfect world, it can cause the cell to die. That is the absolute best case scenario. Cell death from a mutation is the absolute best case scenario. Because Josiah, if I inhaled a bunch of silicate dust and those lung cells just die, they're going to get replaced by new lung cells and I'm not going to worry about anything. But if they trigger a mutation that causes them to multiply uncontrollably, I'll go back and fill in the other ones, multiply uncontrollably, this is where all of a sudden you now have cancer. And there are certain tissues that are more susceptible to this than others. Your lungs, your skin, breast tissue in both men and women, tissues that, yeah. Oil? I don't know. Do they? Does it? I don't know. That one I cannot speak to. So some mutations can be harmful, and I would argue is this blank right here And I would argue that most mutations are harmful. And again, cell death is what you want. If you get a sunburn and those cells die, that's great. It's what happens under, I mean, it's uncomfortable, but now you don't automatically have this big patch of skin cancer on your back due to the sunburn. The cells have died. It's the damage that's done underneath that gets concerning, because if those cells don't die, there is potential for the damage to the DNA to begin to replicate. And then you're just going to get burnt. That's thermal. You're just going to get a burn. You're not going to get cancer from that. Okay, you bet. There's a middle option here too. So multiply uncontrollably leads to cancers. Cell death is great. If that's what the mutation causes, 2 thumbs up. But there's an in-between one here. Maybe they don't die. Maybe they don't multiply uncontrollably. Maybe they just don't work the way they're supposed to. Malfunction is the word we're going to throw in here. What if cells malfunction? Sorry? What were you going to say? How do you know? What did you see? You did some Googling? You did some Googling! I'm so proud. What did you do? Oh, you talked to someone else. Okay, here we go. So an example of a malfunction caused by DNA, and specifically this is a DNA addition. We're adding sections to the DNA. This occurs in the HTT gene on chromosome 4. Why did you talk, like between classes they told you about this? During class they told you about this? Okay, so yeah, between the blocks. Because I only talked about this last block with D-block. Oh, on chromosome, that should not be 5, that should be a 4. Chromosome number 4. The HTT gene on chromosome 4. This particular gene forms a protein, and this protein has a particular job. I don't remember what the job is, doesn't matter what the job is, but the problem with, well, one of the interesting things on this particular gene is that it has a section in the gene where it goes CAG, 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 ... Guys, stay with me. I know it's the end of the day, but stick with me. This repetition happens anywhere between 10 and 35 times. That just changes the length of the protein. It doesn't change how the protein functions. This is good. 10 to 35 times is fine. But if somehow during the DNA replication section, and this can happen, if instead of going CAG, CAG 35 times, it goes CAG 36 times or more, all of a sudden, that triggers something in this person called Huntington's. Huntington's chorea. Yep, Huntington's disease. All it is an extra CAG sequence. What are you doing, Michael? Michael, what are you doing? Why? Why is this necessary? Stick with me, guys. I know your class is almost done. I'm trying to make this interesting. So you get this, and what happens is as soon as the protein hits 36 or more of these repetitions, the protein starts to break apart and it starts to build up where it's supposed to do its job, and that's in the neurons of the brain. If proteins start to build up around the neurons in the brain, it starts to kill those neurons. If your neurons in your brain then start to die off, you become brain dead. Various functions start to shut off. Huntington's has a 100% fatality rate. No. It's at least 10. Then no protein would form. And an embryo wouldn't survive, because you need the protein. The protein needs to, if your body's not making any of the Huntington protein, you're also not going to be around to survive. It won't ever detract to that point. The cell would just die. And again, that's an example where cell death is a good mutation to have. And again, once the mistake is made in the DNA, every time that the DNA gets copied, it's going to get copied with the incorrect number here again. So there are thousands of diseases that result in the mutation. of a single base, or that are the results, of a mutation of a single base. Remember, the bases are the G's, the C's, the A's, and the T's. There are a bunch of diseases where you change one letter, one place, and now you have a disease. An example of that, or these are called point mutations, and I've got two examples for you. Sickle cell is one. Sickle cell is the result of a single thymine where it should have been an adenine. That mistake shows up in one place in your genetic code. Congratulations. You now have sickle cell, and you're passing it on now to the people who come after you. This mutation had to start somewhere. And the second one is, another example is what's called progeria. That's this guy right here. Effectively, what it causes is rapid aging. This guy looks like an old man. He's in his teens. Possibly? I don't know the movie. Yeah, you were born with this condition because this is a single thymine that should have been a cytosine in the embryo way at the beginning. So, some mutations can be beneficial. Oh, there was a hand that I was ignoring for a little while. Where's the hand? Was there a question that I didn't answer? I think I answered it. Okay. Some mutations can be beneficial. It is rare that a mutation is beneficial. Others have no effect. It's more common for them to be harmful or to have no effect, but sometimes you have mutations that are beneficial. This is how we have so much variation in the human species. For example, Elijah, where are you from? Like your ancestors? Ah, you're Dutch. Nice. If you ain't Dutch, hey, wow, you're Dutch. Your last name is Dutch. Okay, so we've got some Dutch. We've got some Dutch. Luca, you're, oh yeah. Yeah, okay. Where your family from? Germany and the Netherlands. Okay, my family is Russian-German. Lexi, Ferguson, you're probably British. Are you? At least a little bit? Okay. So, what do these places all have in common? Stop touching each other in Paris and Memphis. What do these places all have in common? If you look at their latitudes, these are all northern countries. Okay? The whitest people, Olive, you are a Duick, which makes you a Mennonite. Yeah, so you're German-Russian. All of us come from, all the white people in the room come from latitudes that get less sun exposure. Right? So lower sun exposure, we can be white and still survive. There was it wasn't an experiment. There was a punishment done to a bunch of British white people where they were like, we don't have enough space in our prisons. We have a teeny tiny little island. We are going to send you to the greatest penal colony in all of the British Empire. Where did they end up? Australia. And with them, all these British people who got banished to Australia, with them came huge increase in skin cancer on the subcontinent of Australia. Why? Because all these white people showed up onto a portion of the planet where large amounts of UV radiation regularly bathe the planet. Skin cancer goes through the roof, and this is a disadvantageous scenario. Before the advent of modern medicine, these people would all die of skin cancer. If you look at the portion of our world that receives the most amount of sun, the people that come from that region all have darker skin than the people that come from the outer regions. People from India, China, Pakistan, the whole middle chunk, Central America, which I hate to use that term, but yeah, Central America, Northern South America, Africa, that whole band there, all have the wildly advantageous mutation of having darker skin. Darker skin does not respond to the sun the same way white skin does. The rates of skin cancer in people with darker skin are astronomically lower than people with white skin, because people with white skin are way more susceptible to the UV radiation from the sun than darker skinned people. The darker your skin even, the better off you are as opposed to surviving in UV. So that's even why you look at people from different parts of Africa. People from different parts of Africa, their skins are, there's no such thing as a black person. Just like you don't have a white person, you have shades of all of the colors. And that sub-Saharan, or like right along the equator, you get people like countries from Sudan, who are, you don't get much darker than people from Sudan and that whole region. And that's why, because that is an example of a wildly beneficial for their survival in their environment mutation for a whole species. So there are examples of things like this. Skin color is a really easy one to point at and say, look, this, I mean, never mind, okay, you have to separate from your mind all of the horrible things that have been done to people in the name of you have a different skin color than I do. But as far as surviving in the environment, that is an example of a mutation, because humanity came from the same spot. Not all of us were all of us were one skin color. I don't know what it was. But then as the population spread over the globe, like we started either in North Africa or like Southwest Middle East, like Iraq, Iran. That is where they figure humanity started. And so from there, humanity spreads out. And gingers are the worst people to put in the sun. The rates of skin cancers in gingers in the sun is astronomical. Yes, Himparis. Oh, so that's exactly what we're going to talk about next, is the concept of evolution. But we're not going to get there today because the bell's going to go in a couple minutes. Yes, Luca. I would not call you a ginger. I don't know. Sure. Google says you're a ginger. I don't. You know what? It doesn't matter. The point being, Luca, the only thing you should take from this is that you need to wear more sunscreen. Okay. You guys are writing a quiz for me tomorrow on genetics. If you need to borrow, Memphis, some pencil crayons for me to finish coloring your monster, you may borrow some pencil crayons. But please make sure I get those back. You're actually done. You sneaked over there. I love it. So you're going to write the quiz next Wednesday? No. Not a chance. I'm not making her. I knew. She told me she was going to be away Thursday, Monday, Tuesday. I knew. I didn't know you were going to be. Yeah, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday. She told me that. We're good. So, but Lexi, expect to write on Wednesday. Okay. When the bell goes, you may also go. Welcome to the wild and wacky world of mutants. Boom.